Bayou Time Sports is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System Community Sports Institute in conjunction with Barker Honda and Barker Kia.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Bayou Time Sports. The big question, can LSU get over the hump to win an opener? We know it's been quite some time, and the truth is maybe the opener this year is tougher than any of those other past openers that they couldn't get by. They take on the Clemson Tigers in just a couple of weeks, and it is in Clemson at their Death Valley. And that Clemson team is loaded to the hilt. They have 18 of 22 starters who are back on that team. And it's going to be a tough one for the Tigers. Coach Brian Kelly spoke this past week about those things that have to happen and when the game plan was put in for Clemson. They've always been thinking about Clemson, but specifically scheming for Clemson has just happened recently. Let's listen to what Coach Kelly had to say.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've coached, for a long time. I've had a lot of guys in the NFL, a lot of first-round draft picks. I think I got a pretty good eye for what an offensive line looks like. This group is going to be really good. We don't have a Will Campbell, right? He's the 5th pick in the draft. But we have 5 guys that play well together, and it starts with the center. Our center position and Braylon Moore kind of sets up the rest of the group for success. His combination work is outstanding. His recognition of fronts, getting us to be an elite offensive line. If you have a center that can kind of set the stage for that, it allows everything else to kind of fall into place, and it's starting to fall into place quite nicely. Working towards, Clemson demo, if you will, scout, however you want to use the words. We started to look at, going up against their fronts and certainly their offensive structure. We began that on Tuesday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We'll do a little bit more tomorrow. So, we'll get in 5 days this week, a full week next week, and then our 3rd week. So it'll be a week more than any bye week that you have. So we'll have no excuses about recognition of scheme. I think I've had teams that I haven't started on an opponent until the last week because we had so many question marks about so many different parts of our offense, defense, and special teams. This one has been, I think, driven by the fact that we have some veteran players on both sides of the ball that allowed us to transition into our opponent a little bit sooner. But there have been some years that have been later, and right about now, we didn't start until Saturday for USC last year. So that's 5 days ahead, in terms of preparation. So I think it's year to year, team to team. I want to continue the competition. I think it brings out the best in everybody, and some of our areas of concern last year were that we didn't have any depth and we didn't have that competition and we couldn't keep the, a sharpness, if you will. And so we're going to continue to keep the reps in a manner that allows competition for all players. Well, this is all about who is in your circle. Right? I'm not concerned about our university and the security and such. This is about who do you give access to in your circle, right? I mean, your circle of influence has got to be based upon people that you trust, people that know you and you know them. And that circle needs to really be evaluated by some players and some individuals. And it's not just players, it's anybody that can gain access through what you have, right? And if you're going to give that up to somebody, it's going to allow access to areas that they shouldn't be in. So this is really about individuals understanding, and in particular players today, right? I mean, they're making revenue share money. They're targets, too. People want to ingratiate themselves with people that are making, substantial amount of money. And so you've got to be careful. And my point is this. We're in an age where, you've got to keep your circle really close. It's got to be family members. It's got people that you elicit information from in a manner of mentoring you. You start to widen that circle because somebody said nice things to you on Twitter. Buyer beware. And that's really the message to our team.
Brian Kelly, by the way, that last part he was talking about is a security issue over on the campus at LSU, where agents and other people come in and sort of affect the players on the team. And we live in a different day and age related to these kids, and having those guys around who are trying to steer them most times in the right direction, but sometimes maybe not so much, maybe thinking of their own self-interest. So that being said, he spoke about that. But of course, most of his talk was about Clemson and getting ready for that game. The Tigers take on Clemson 2 Saturdays from now, not this Saturday. Of course, we're all going to be at the Nichols game this Saturday at noon. And then the following Saturday, the Tigers take on the Tigers in Clemson, and that's a huge one. LSU's been having trouble in that opener. They win this game, it really sets them off in the right direction. They lose that game with a tough SEC slate. Who knows what happens along the way? So it's a big one. And again, a very expensive, maybe a very expensive Clemson team, but a very experienced Clemson team also, as 2 terrific quarterbacks playing in that one. Can't wait for that game, just a couple of Saturdays away. Got to take a break. We'll be back with more Bayou Time Sports right after this.
This segment was brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System Community Sports Institute in conjunction with Barker Honda and Barker Kia.